Before we get into it, like this video, share it with someone who'd find it interesting and subscribe to the channel. It's what keeps videos like this coming. It is a Sunday evening. You slide a heavy plastic game disc into your console slot, hear the drive spin up and settle back on the couch. You bought this physical disc at a store. You paid full price, brought it home and put it on your shelf. But when you hit start, an error message flashes on the screen. The network is down, the console refuses to boot the game. Your plastic disc, sitting right there inside the machine, is completely useless. An extended outage across the Xbox network has just locked millions of players out of their games on a Sunday evening. And it did not just block digital downloads. It rendered physical media unplayable too. You did not buy a game. You bought a plastic coaster. The plastic game disc was supposed to be the ultimate safe haven against the fleeting nature of the internet. For decades, if you held the physical media in your hands, the game was yours. But during that Sunday evening Xbox outage, players who had never connected their consoles to the internet to buy digital titles discovered a frustrating truth. Their disc-based games failed to launch alongside their digital counterparts. The console drive spun, read the data, and then stopped cold, waiting for a remote server to confirm that the person holding the controller was actually allowed to play. When that server went dark, the physical disc became indistinguishable from a missing file. Modern console ecosystems have quietly dismantled the offline safeguard. Today, when you bring a plastic disc home from the store, it rarely contains a complete, playable game. Instead, it functions as an installation key that triggers a massive download to an internal hard drive, followed by mandatory updates. Without network connectivity to complete that handshake, the disc is an empty promise. You hold the object, but the access remains locked in a server farm miles away. That plastic game disc used to represent a complete transaction between a buyer and a store. So why did hardware manufacturers and software publishers build a system that intentionally disables it without a network? The answer comes down to corporate incentives and long-term economic control. For software publishers, physical media carries friction. Used games get resold, physical stores take a cut, and once a disc leaves the factory, the publisher cannot alter its contents or extract further revenue. By forcing every plastic game disc to authenticate through an online network and install to an internal hard drive, manufacturers blur the boundary between a physical product and a subscription service. It gives companies real-time control over their user base. They can push mandatory updates, modify features, manage digital rights, and eventually sunset authentication servers when a console generation becomes unprofitable to maintain. The convenience of cloud saves, seamless day-one patches, and instant digital updates is real, and many consumers gladly accept the trade-off. But that convenience conceals a structural shift in power. Publishers no longer sell you an asset, they grant you a conditional privilege. Look closely at that plastic game disc compared to a cartridge built 20 years ago for the original Nintendo Game Boy. If you find a Game Boy cartridge from 20 years ago in an attic today, you can pop it into a console and play it instantly. It requires no network connectivity, no server handshake, and no permission from a manufacturer that might not even exist in its original form anymore. You can even slide that 20-year-old cartridge into a modern recreation like the Analog Pocket, which displays those legacy pixels with 10 times the pixel density of the original screen, completely offline. The mechanism of legacy hardware was self-contained. The code lived on the physical board, and the console was simply a tool to read it. Modern physical media operates on a fundamentally different mechanism. The plastic game disc inside a modern console is merely a physical token tied to software-as-a-service architecture. Technically, legacy games were legally distributed under software licenses too. But because there was no technical mechanism to enforce server checks, those legacy cartridges functioned as de facto physical ownership. Today, the network is built directly into the boot process. That plastic game disc now exposes a widening gap between different gaming ecosystems. While console owners are locked into walled gardens where a single server outage turns physical media into paperweights, PC gaming offers a markedly different landscape. On open personal computer platforms, players have access to more robust means of maintaining long-term access to their files. PC users can archive installers, run local backups, and utilize DRM-free storefronts that do not require continuous authorization to launch a software file. On modern consoles, however, the balance of power has shifted entirely to the platform holder. Consumer groups often push back, arguing that if you buy a physical item in a store, you should be able to use it offline indefinitely. Yet console manufacturers enforce license-only terms of service that explicitly state you own the right to access the software, not the software itself. Note that this summary is purely for informational purposes and does not constitute financial or investment guidance. The practical consequence is a quiet erosion of consumer rights, where physical ownership is replaced by an ongoing, revocable permission slip. So where does the plastic game disc go from here? The broader economic shift is clear. Physical hardware is increasingly merged with software-as-a-service models, turning permanent purchases into temporary rentals. But critical questions remain unanswered. It is still unknown to what extent legal consumer protection laws in different jurisdictions will conflict with the strict, license-only terms of service enforced by console manufacturers. Courts in various countries are only beginning to scrutinize whether a company can legally disable physical media bought at retail. Equally unknown is whether technical workarounds or jailbreaking methods will emerge to allow everyday console owners to bypass server-side authentication for physical disks. Until those legal and technical battles play out, the reality for consumers remains fragile. The next time a network goes offline, millions of people will look at their shelves and realize the same unsettling truth. You can hold it in your hand, but you do not truly own the plastic game disc. That's it for this one. If you got something out of it, hit like, share it with someone who'd care, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. It genuinely helps the channel grow, and there's a lot more coming.